A very warm welcome to everyone into the Sangha Live session for today, and I hope this finds you doing well and feeling good about being able to come into this space. Also feeling really fortunate to be able to come in here to see this community. It's a real pleasure, as always, to look through the chat and be welcomed in such a warm and wide way. And obviously, it's not just a welcome to me; it's a welcome to all of us. If you're joining, really do feel free to say hi in the chat, to say good morning or good whatever time of day it is for you, in whatever language and expression that comes through. So don't feel you only have to say that in English. Certainly at this point, I think we'll understand what it means, and also feel that sentiment. I hope that also supports a sense of welcomeness to all of us, and also having that wider sense as we drop in, just how wide this Sangha is, this community is. So as part of my part in the welcome, I'll just say a few words about myself and then a few words about the session before jumping into the materials for us today. So I'm Nathan Glyde. I'm a Dharma teacher, teach a lot at Guy House, and this is near to where I'm based. Some of you will know Guy House, and also come to Sangha Live on quite a regular basis when the stars align and it's possible to do that. So a little bit about the system of what we'll flow through. So shortly I'll give a reflection on the theme, and don't worry, you don't need to know what the theme is. I'll say a bit more about that. And then we'll have about half an hour or so of relatively quiet meditation. I'll drop in a few ideas related to the reflection so that we can build on the ideas. They're not just meant to be ideas, they're actually meant to be practiced. As many of you will know about these teachings, are very pragmatic. Then there'll be time for your questions, any reflections, any clarifications that we want to make around that. So hopefully that all makes sense. At that time, for expressing a question, we don't have a separate area for that. If you can just maybe type in capital letters question or reflection, whatever it is, that'd be helpful. And then that allows me to just have a little look into that beautiful chat of where we can connect more clearly there and be able to respond to that. And I can say a bit more about that at the time, but you can already know in your heart and mind that it's also possible to come on screen, and we can have two faces, two live conversation possibilities open up from there. Okay, so before I go into the reflection, there's something I really appreciate about the opportunities that we have to pause, collect ourselves, and find out how we're doing. So let's just take a moment to breathe, to feel, to listen. How are you doing today? Anything needs to just loosen up, relax. And of course, that is meditation right there. That's becoming familiar with our experience. It's a key part. It can be the entirety of the journey at sometimes. The second part of meditation is actually the cultivation quality. And I just want to invite a question, and I will also invite your responses through the chat, is what would you like to see more of? What would you like to see more of in your life? Maybe it's coming through you out into, you want to radiate this quality into the world. You see the world needs this. It could be a quality you want to feel deep within yourself because you need this right now. It could be in your local environment, local relationships. It could be global. Could be very personal, could be universal. But imagine that we can see with meditation, there's the possibility of planting seeds, intentional seeds, through the way that we relate, through what we pay attention to. So to invite you, if you wish, trying to see, can you put it into a word or two? Make it crystallize like a chrysalis into a direction and intention. What is it you wish to see more of? And pause and see if anything comes there. And I'll mention a few. And as I mention them, I'm not picking them out because they're the best ones. I'm just picking out whatever catches my eye, literally catches my eye there. Not more important than another. Can we feel, as we say them, as we feel them, they're not that far away. So there can be a little bit more of this as it goes through. So acceptance, tolerance, safety, trust, peace, courage, responsibility, purpose, joy, humanity, clarity, and kindness. So that's kind of where we were going as a community. That's the kind of feeling, the direction. There's more there in the chat for you to tune into, check into. But it's also really important sensibility in ourselves. Like, okay, this is what was there for me. And that's what I really resonated with from the community, those qualities. And I would say, let's keep those in mind. That's why we want to practice at this moment. We could take that on as a dedication for the week. Actually, that's why I want to practice this week. We could be a little bit crude, and let's just, it's not quite as delicate and sensitive and beautiful as all that, but that could become like almost like a metric by which we measure the progress along the path for us. Yeah. Am I heading in that direction? Am I picking up practices, ways of looking at life, cultivations, settlings, and openings that support that directionality? Yeah. So it's like, we get out the map and we look, okay, I want to get to there. I want to get to there. I need to go this windy way, and then I have to go over to there, and then I come to this bit. So sometimes it's that much of a, okay, but you've got to keep that big picture. I'm not going to stop before I'm seeing more of that. I'm feeling closer to that. Yeah. And they're all actually dimensions of freedom, aren't they? They're all dimensions of freedom. They're all in support of freedom, of liberation. This week's session is called Liberating Views. And it's going to include quite a lot about the underlying ideas we have about life and dropping those in and seeing how they can actually free things up. It's also actually about liberating view, also means becoming less cluttered, less obscured. Yeah. If you imagine it's a crisp, clear day, maybe rain fell just before, and now the sky is open and we've come up to a high place. And that view is very clear, very unobscured, unhindered, and we can really see clearly there. Yeah, so it's also a way of liberating our view. It's liberated of the obscuration. Liberating view in the teachings also really means looking in ways that are freeing, they're insightful. You know, we're looking in ways that actually free us up in a very, very deep way. Now, some people might feel, well, I don't really like, ideas and all that kind of stuff. I want to get down to the bare, direct contact. Now, there's a lot of ideas in that idea that, I don't like ideas. Ideas get in the way. What we're saying is whatever's going on, our view of things matters. Our view of things matters. It shapes particularly what we attend to, what we're prioritizing looking for. And there will be that negativity bias and all other kind of tendencies and habits we have. And meditation is a way of moving away from the habits, the tendencies that can be harmful, towards paying attention to what might be more beneficial, more beautiful, more in alignment with our intentions. Yeah. And the second thing that matters is how we attend, how we bring that attention. Yeah. So what we see, what we experience, and essentially that's our life. Our life is made up of the experience from what we attend to and how we attend to it. Yeah. Sometimes that what is thrust upon us, and sometimes, it's a habit playing out, and we just pay attention to this, pay attention to that. What we're particularly going to play around with this week are the liberating views that were suggested by the Buddha of like looking at how things are more dynamic, more transient, barely here at all. Like that's a whole way of looking. Later in the week, we'll look at how things can't bring long-term happiness, or that all the appearances of things are actually not themselves. Like they don't have some essence deep down within them that makes them have to be that way. And that opens out that freedom again. It's like, well, I could pay attention to different dimensions or aspects of this thing, different what's, even if I'm staying with that one apparent thing. And there's also the possibility of relating to it in a different way. Instead of rejecting it, I could be appreciating it. Yeah. Instead of grabbing onto it, I could actually just be allowing it to pass through. Yeah. Okay. So a quick little thing that's worth saying here. None of these views are an argument that this is the way it really is. They're much more, and I think this is the way that I hear the Buddha saying of how to relate to these, is they're an invitation to look this way. Because I knew I wanted a bit of preamble and intentions and things like that, and wanted to also give plenty of time for the meditation, I've actually picked up one that you'll probably feel is true. Yeah, probably feel it is true, but we're not, again, doesn't matter actually if it's true or not. It's a way of looking at life that can be supportive and beneficial. And so it's actually the view of this is dynamic, this is alive, this is a way of looking that's actually going to bring things more to life. And so there's a beautiful sense in meditation. It's actually we're coming to life. And there's two ways we could hear that. Yeah. We're coming closer to life, but we're also coming alive. Like that apparent spring energy that we can have here. Yeah. We're recording on the 1st of April. We're meeting in real space here in this way. And just this sense, nothing's static. You feel into your body, it's a vibration that you sense, a sensation. And actually that vibration itself is made up of vibrations, and it's the turtles all the way down kind of sense. It's actually vibrations all the way down. Vibrations all the way down. And we don't need to get down to the baseline of vibrations to really say, now I'm meeting experience as it really is. We're just seeing, it's vibrations within vibrations within vibrations. What we're really seeing here is it's quite ungraspable. Yeah. When we don't look clearly this way, the things, people, events can seem quite solid. And that can become quite oppressive or more demanding on us, and we become more demanding on them. It's a little bit like this sense, you can't grab a wave. If you go to the beach and there's waves coming over on the sea and you think, I'm gonna keep that wave. You can't keep the wave. Yeah. It's dynamic, it's changing, it's inconstant, it's which bit of the wave is the wave, any moment in itself. Things change so much that actually calling them things kind of feels a bit of a misnomer, a bit of misnaming of the what 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 bit of it at what point. Yeah. You can't grab a wave, you can't push them away. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be the liberating view, and we're speaking a little bit later in the week actually why it's liberating, or it might come up in the questions, the reflections. But I don't want to go too much into you know the what and the why. Let's just try it out. Is it nice to do that? Is it nice to see the sounds in our environment, the sensations in our body as dynamic? And then maybe we'll want to transfer that to more of our life as we go on. So, remembering your intention, what we spoke about earlier, if you haven't thought about that already yet, what would I like to be supporting in my life? And choosing a posture that's going to be helpful for that. It could be standing, could be reclining, could be sitting, one way or another. Might even be walking gently, movement. We just settle into that together. Becoming familiar again with how the body feels, the weight of the body, the contact it's making with the rest of life. Let's also extend the awareness, whether you're familiar with this way of practicing or not, into sounds. Really, something very evident about sounds is how they appear and then really disappear. But what we particularly want to be noticing is actually how dynamic sounds are, that vibration. So, if it's possible, we'll kind of listen beneath the label. Doesn't really matter what that is, and we can even attempt a little bit to not label. How does it sound? How's this wave of sound? Again, tuning into sounds, feeling them all the way around you, sensing the sounds behind, above. Not one of them is not dynamic, fluid, flowing. You might notice a sense of allowing the sounds through. It might even be a welcoming them to be known. And our listening in a certain way brings them to life, certainly brings them into our life, coming to life. And we in turn come to life as we are in tune with this dynamic vibrancy of the vibrations. So I'll just say a few more things before we settle all the way into this practice. So listening to sounds might not be your kind of practice, and that's really fine. It was just an example. It might be that the hearing isn't sufficient for this. There may be inner sounds as well. We can listen to inner sounds in the same way. It can be kind of made up inner sounds also, and it may or may not be helpful to listen to them in that way, in that dynamic way. But not forgetting that how we attend is also a really key part of experience. So there's what, where, and how. So the how, as well as including a sense of dynamic, can also include more a sense of kindness. Kindness to oneself, kindness to the sound, to the vibration of the vibration of the vibration. Okay, we can do that with sound. We could also do that with breath. Breath is not a constant, it's also dynamic. So you've got choices, and any time that we notice that the mind has fixated, gotten attached, gotten distracted into something, we can just drop in a sense it's dynamic. It might be the felt sense of that, the emotional sense of being entangled in that story again. Do you see how the emotion is dynamic? And then we'll return to maybe the breath or the sounds as a base practice. Dynamic. And getting to know inner sounds, outer sounds, breath vibrations, contact sensations, whatever we want to have as the primary thing, and maybe just picking one from all of that, one that feels helpful. Okay, then we'll find our way through this. And what I would suggest is maybe for the length of about 3 breaths, really paying attention to the dynamic and then having a little break from intensity. Maybe the mind still follows and still sees that way. And then after 5 or 6 breaths, coming back in again. Really get to know. Play with those energy levels till we find it's gathering. We're getting to see it. We're getting to know dynamics. We're getting to come to life in a fruitful way. these liberating views understand that probably by default we'll see things as more solid in this case. And that might be an ache in the body, a painful emotion, a story, event in that sense, or the people in it. And we can just start to shift that view. Actually, this thing that seems solid, substantial, is a wave, dynamic, it's inconstant, fluid. It's not a thing, it's a wave. Again, we're not saying that's true, we're saying what happens when we look that way? Can that free things up? We're not saying that at the same time as we're saying the thing, we're just trying it on. A sense of creativity, experimentation, dynamic. It doesn't mean we have to go straight to the heart of it. Maybe we keep a bit of distance. We kind of just start with the acceptable edges of it. See, is it dynamic? Can it come alive? Can we come alive? It may be helpful to soften the face, soften the gaze of the view. The looking becomes more dynamic, and what is sensed, felt, may too. May be helpful to stay in one area, one sense door, but also one sense object within that. It'd be more helpful to have a wide sense. It may include more than one sense door, or just a wide sense within one. Remembering, recalling, and looking through a sense of dynamism, inconstancy, fluidity. There's more to see. Not what it at first appears to be. Whatever we're seeing here, can it be seen as a vibration that's made of vibrations, made of vibrations? To whatever degree, notice how does it feel to see things as quite ungraspable? Just coming into the last moments of this meditation practice together. Notice how it feels in the heart, in the mind, in the body, the whole of the being. We might also see it as dynamic. We might just be checking in with the emotional tone, or both. And now we'll begin to move along that dynamic position between the stillness, the steadiness, the inward, and come into the community space again, perhaps with a little bit of movement, opening the eyes if they were closed, clearing the throat, as we sometimes do. Yeah, so it's interesting for me. It's here, this may be a way that you're familiar with practicing. It may be a kind of like a dimension of that familiar practice, but really emphasizing more uh, to see as dynamic. And you can perhaps have a sense as the clarity there around the view also supports a clear way of seeing into things. Um, and one of the principles that you might notice there is it's not so easy to grasp onto. It's not so easy to push away. Um, that depends on actually a different kind of conception of what a thing is. That thing, I don't want. What thing? The thingness, the vibration beneath the vibration, beneath the vibration. Am I gonna? Where do I need to get down to so that I can interact in what the Buddha would have called the kind of the unskillful, unwholesome uh, ways that we habitually do. And at other times, it's going to be helpful to take a different view. Yeah. So we're not saying take up this view; it will make you free all of the time. Yeah, that couldn't be an appropriate response to a dynamically shifting world. Yeah. Also, our way of relating needs to have that dynamism within it. So um, it's not a one step, do this, panacea, fix the rest of your life by just having this view. Um, okay. Now, if you have any kind of questions, comments, reflections around that, you're really, really invited to put those into the chat. As I said before, if you want to come on the screen, it's also a possibility. We'll make that uh, more of what we want to do there, and we can step into that. And just while those are coming in, I'll mention the principle of dana on which these daily meditations and Sangha life in general is existing, primarily existing, and also the teachers and ones who come here to varying degrees are completely dependent on that. So I'm one of those who really depends on dana as a way of life, and really appreciate all of the support that comes in relationship to that. And even more, I really appreciate this way of doing things, this way that feels more free, more inclusive, more potential there. And yeah, I really respect Sangha Live for taking on this as a means to exist. Yeah, as a means to fulfill their journey of supporting awakening. So yeah, if you're in a position where you can offer support for that, you're really really invited to do so. And of course, what that also means is that if anyone here isn't in a position to offer any support, to be able to participate financially, your presence is also really, really valued and really significant and important for everyone here. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your support in whatever way that it comes and keeps things doing. So there's a couple of questions in the chat, and maybe a comment as well. I'm not sure, Bart, if you wanted a reflection on that, but I'll go to the questions first, and you can clarify if you want me to respond to that in the session also. And thanks for sharing it. I haven't read it yet. So yeah, start with Jane's question. What is dynamism? What does dynamic mean? So I use just a lot of synonyms for things. So what it means is that it's vibrant, it's moving, it's not fixed, it's not steady, it's not still. In a practice at certain times, we might emphasize more, steadying, settling, staying with, all of that, yeah, and that can be really beautiful. It might be that in that steadying, settling, staying with, what we start to notice is that everything's fluid and flowing and dynamic, moving, vibrant, all of those qualities. But it could be that we actually don't try to settle, steady, and stay with. We actually just sustain a view that in and of itself is a vibrant, dynamic way of relating. Yeah. So it's just different practice intentions become revealed by different conception or ideas or approaches. Yeah, in that. So that's kind of what dynamic is saying. And Nita's asking, how does one deal with the fear and grief for impermanence? And that's a really great question. And let's see how far we go into that. So in a way, today, I'm not actually talking about impermanence. We could say that there are two dimensions to a wonderful teaching. So these views that the Buddha suggests taking up in the Buddha's language are called anicca. Anicca would mean something that is constant, yeah, and is the negation, so it's not constant, it's inconstant. For us to see that something is inconstant, not constant, we could say it doesn't last. That's one aspect of it being inconstant. If it were constant, it would always be here. Yeah, it would always be sunny, but it's not always sunny. It's inconstant. There's night. There's also periods of times where it's obscured by the clouds. It's not always there. It's not always lasting. But actually, if we look at the sun, the sunlight is a vibration. It's a dynamic, and it comes in waves. It's stronger. It's weaker. It's the way that it comes to us as light waves, as heat rising up, all of those kind of dimensions is actually inconstant in and of itself. Yeah, and we can talk about sunlight, but we can't really say that's it, because it's all of it. It's much bigger. It's much more vast than that. When we speak about another aspect of that, yeah, the inconstancy is actually impermanence. It gives that impression that there are permanent things which don't last. Yeah, so they're permanent for that period of time while they're there. They permeate and they pass through as things. Yeah, so it's like it came into being as this thing, this being, this state, this experience, this role I had, all of those things. We're not currently seeing them as dynamic and unfindable within themselves, but actually that's the thing, but it won't last. But it won't last. And it will come with a sense of fear, a sense of grief, a sense of sadness. And particularly because of, this psychological cognitive bias that we have, which is we tend to see what's wrong with things. We tend to be drawn towards the problematic. We tend to be drawn towards the saddening, yeah, as a way of shoring up some kind of survival. It's a good tendency to have for surviving beings, is to notice what's not okay. Then we tend to be drawn there, and that can actually spiral us into a lot of fear and a lot of grief. Yeah. So what we would do before stepping into that kind of a practice is actually work with softening, making spacious, tending to the heart before drawing our attention to the more unpleasant things. Yeah. And we are going to go towards impermanence as an aspect of that experience, but we want to do it in skillful, wholesome, supportive ways. So what I would say is practice in ways that set you up well so that you can step into those types of experiences, because otherwise the fear element will start to shape and affect the way that we see these things, the way that we relate, the ways that views come through in that way. Yeah. So we're not going to try and get rid of all fear, and we're not rejecting of the grief that we can feel around the loss of really significant things. But for today, what the suggestion was more like, what if that comes up, if a sense of fear comes up or a sense of grief comes up, it might be possible to actually see that it's not a thing in itself. It's actually dynamic. It's much more different than that, and we can turn away a little bit from the thing that we're afraid of. And actually, the felt sense of fear as like ripples up and through. That also takes us away from an antagonistic relationship to fear, which tends to make us feel more contracted, more small, more defensive, but also kind of a position that feels less defendable. We feel kind of, it's a weird defensiveness is indefensible kind of sensibility. And it's like, okay, this is what's happening. I'm feeling a lot of fear, feeling it in the heart, feeling it in the belly, feeling it in the tightness, and I can soften, I can open, I can move in new ways around that. Yeah. So I hope that's supportive and might work with that. It looks like there's a big question in the chat, and we're drawing to the end of this session. So what I do is, Jonathan, thanks for the question. Looks really great. I hope that it'll also relate to seeing anicca in the way that we will tomorrow. So I'll grab that, put that into my notes, and certainly include it at least in the question and responses time, maybe earlier into the session. So thank you everyone for being here. It's always a blessing to tune into the Sangha Live community, and yeah, thanks for the reflections and questions and presence and practice and all of that. Okay, take care.